Yeah, hi. Are you here to comment on the small cell infrastructure ordinance?
Yes.
Okay, can I ask you to state your name and residential address, please?
Sure. My name is Theodora Scarato. I'm actually Executive Director of Environmental Health Trust, and I live in Maryland, so I'm not a stakeholder. I am coming to provide information.
Can you tell us something about your organization before you give us your comments?
Sure. We're a nonprofit started about a decade ago, focused on preventable health risks by Dr. Deborah Davis, who worked on breast cancer and environmental health, Dr. Ronald Herberman, as well as Dr. Schreiber. And our scientific advisors and our scientists are among the leading scientists working on the issue of electromagnetic radiation, non-ionizing radiation in health in the world, actually. And we work on a number of different projects, but I wanted to, we publish as well. I published on the issue of radio frequency radiation, and as well Dr. Deborah Davis and Dr. Miller have published extensively on the issue of wireless and health. I recognize that there are laws at the federal, state, and local level that you're contending with related to electromagnetic radiation. However, I wanted to make you aware of a few things. First, there was just an article that came out in the, and I apologize, I have too many things up on my screen, that just came out in the entitled Electromagnetic Fields, 5G and Health, What About the Precautionary Principle by John William Frank, detailing the extensive body of research that indicates that wireless is not as safe as we might think from what you might read online and so forth. In fact, our scientists have published, in this article, cites references our publications, have published numerous articles documenting harm, which includes not only cancer, DNA damage, oxidative stress, impacts to memory and sperm, but also, and this pertains to planning, also impacts to trees, bees, birds, our natural environment. And these are all issues which have not been fully made a part of the limits that we have. So, for example, there's a lot of controversy, which we would call industry-created and fueled controversy about the issue of, is wireless harmful to people or not? However, if you look at the issue of impacts to trees, birds, bees, our natural environment, we have no limits that were ever created to protect them. So you're looking at putting poles up, maybe near trees. Birds will perch on them. Trees will have limbs. Who's going to cut those? Who's going to be in charge of the cutting? What about impacts to trees? There's actually a paper entitled Radio Frequency Radiation Injures Trees, which is about how trees in line of sight to cell antennas have damage sustained on the side of the tree that is near and in line of sight to the antenna. And over time, a lot of those trees have to be felled. This was a study that looked at dozens of trees. And like right outside my window, I can tell you where I live, we're dealing similarly with the situation where they're going to be putting up these antennas with no public process or pushing to do so, as they are across the United States, without even considering the impact to the natural environment. So we believe there needs to be an environmental review. Now, I can send you a letter from the Environmental Protection Agency that was just sent to me, which details how they have no funded mandate and have not looked into this issue since 1984. Now, they haven't in the mid-90s is when they were defunded, but their last review of the issue was in 1984, as she sent to me. And as well, also she detailed in this letter how there has not been any review on impacts to birds, bees, or trees. So despite our assumptions of safety, there simply aren't any. I also wanted to make you aware of the New Hampshire Commission to Study Human Health and Environmental Effects, which released its final report with 15 recommendations, which include setbacks and reducing exposure to humans. And also, that there are many ordinances that are passed across the United States which have restrict the installation of small cells in residential neighborhoods, that have setbacks from 500 to over 1,000 feet setbacks between residences and the antennas. I realize you can't prohibit service. I'm not saying that. There always has to be some way that if service were prohibited, that is addressed, a path to that. What I am saying is that many communities are taking action to use as much authority as they have in the setting of, in the siting of these antennas. So I can send you the New Hampshire report and any other resources you're interested in. I'm glad to present. I'm glad to bring some experts or share with you why there are literally hundreds of scientists who are calling to halt the rollout of 5G and small cell infrastructure. So once you get that antenna site, you can easily, with very little paperwork, put in 5G infrastructure as well. And a lot of the calls to minimize the rollout are not just about 5G, it's about the densification of 4G. And I would also add that the insurance companies are classifying this as a high risk in their reports. And as well, the wireless companies and the companies that are building the poles and putting up the antennas, they can't get insurance for long-term damages from the radio frequency radiation from the antennas. And another thing to consider is, do you have insurance that would cover both, you know, the local authority as well as individuals related to this, because there are electromagnetic radiation exclusions for non-ionizing radiation, and even the companies themselves in their own insurance that they provide to people related to cell phones, they actually define the radiation from the antennas as a type of pollution in their own insurance coverage. So the issue of insurance and finance is an important one. If you feel that this is safe because you looked it up and it seems to be safe, I would urge you to read what Dr. Leonard Hardell has published. There's numerous publications on the conflicts of interest, because I would say that the wireless industry makes the tobacco industry look like a mom and pop shop. And I am not this is not an exaggeration. There was recently an article in the Washington Spectator talking about a lot of these issues. I can send you that link as well. They point to research that we did. I also do investigations. The CDC, for example, their web pages were, they have several web pages that were written, drafted by an industry consultant, and so on and so forth. It's a whole bucket. But I'd like to offer presenting at any time. I would guess from the lack of public participation today that most people are not aware of these plans. And I can tell you, in my town, when this happened, people literally woke up to cement being poured and antennas being built in their front yards, and almost from nothing to hundreds of people were packing rooms saying, what is going on here? Why weren't we informed? So I would offer that anything you can do to engage the public on this so they understand what you're talking about, like a 28 cubic foot equipment in front of your home, like that's big. That's like a refrigerator. You can stand in it. In fact, we built them and then stood in them to show how big they are, and to have these near residences is really a challenge in terms of property value as well as all the other aesthetics. So really engaging the community is so important so they understand exactly what you're talking about. I just would urge that, and I'm glad to talk more and at any time. So I will be sending an email with contact information as well as the resources I talked about, and I so appreciate that you let me speak today.
I would suggest that if you communicate with our planner, Ellen, that you put any citations to the research that you've talked about, so in case anybody would like to take a look at it, they could. The only thing I'd point out that we've been working on this ordinance for a while, quite slowly, quite deliberately, getting input from commission members, staff members, and our local newspaper has actually, I think, been pretty good about providing information on these meetings, both online and in print. Obviously, lots of people are distracted by the pandemic and by the holidays, and a lot of football fans around here are distracted. So I don't know, we don't usually get a lot of people at these planning commission meetings, and even if we recommend to go ahead with the ordinance, it still has to go to city council, still has to go to city council committee. We have a council representative on the planning commission, so I think this is going to be aired quite thoroughly before we finally make any kind of recommendation to the city council, and then they take on their process. So we're still in the whole process, gathering information, and I think you were here earlier when one of our members, Mr. Loring, was questioning a lot of the details in the ordinance. So I think, and I previously have, when I saw the first copy, made a lot of comments, and our staff has, and so we're probably going over this with a fine-tooth comb, which is what our job is, because we realize this is important, and we need to understand what it is that we would be ultimately recommending. So I think so far, I feel confident saying we've done a pretty good job going over it, and certainly would welcome more public input if they had strong opinions about this. So I appreciate you coming and talking to us.
Thank you so much. I'll send you citations so that you have that information. And if some municipalities are actually meeting with lawyers, independent lawyers, about the best way they can retain as much authority and not open the red carpet, but rather ensure that people are participating in the decision-making process when one is coming in front of their homes, because that's what it really comes down to, is people saying, wait, how did that get there? And then there's an ordinance that said it could, and they say, wait a minute, I didn't know, and that's what certainly happened here in our county. So,
and the experience you talked about with people getting quite upset was right where you live?
Yes, I'm in Montgomery County, Maryland.
Okay.
And so we're a suburb of Washington, D.C.
Right.
And there's a few neighborhoods here where they became, I don't understand why, but a few years ago, it's been years now, that this has been an issue in our community. The different companies had a proposal to put the small cell facilities in an area in North Potomac, and about 3 different areas here. And so that sort of had prompted a whole awareness, which I thought was kind of unprecedented, actually, in our community. We had meetings in schools that were packed. I'll be sure to send you a link to that as well, if you're interested.
No, I would like this. Was this a countywide ordinance or a municipal ordinance that people were objecting to?
Well, actually, if you're asking, it's a little complicated. So first there was these proposed permitting happening for antennas without an ordinance that adequately dealt with it. It was being moved forward. Then there have been, and pardon me if I don't remember if it's 3 or 4 years, of a local ordinance being proposed that's gone all around the mulberry bush, as you can imagine, between the Fed committee and the city council, and then ultimately tabled. And then we've also had, amidst all of this, which I don't believe you have yet, or at least it hasn't passed yet, a state streamlining bill to even restrict what we as a county or a city would want to do. So all of that has been part of the landscape of action here in Montgomery County. What ended up happening in like North Potomac, which is just up the road from here, they tabled, it's just on pause because the county engaged in a lawsuit against the FCC, contending that it's the cart before the horse. And now our organization is actually in a lawsuit, legal action against the FCC as well, contending that their 25-year-old radio frequency exposure limits are inadequate and they didn't review the record. Because they haven't complied with NEPA is what we are saying many things. I can send you those links too. So in the meantime, things have been on hold. Our county council has not acted to move forward on anything regarding residential yet for a variety of reasons. But we just heard today that they're just beginning again. So
did you say there was or wasn't a Maryland statewide ordinance on this issue?
Yeah, I'm sorry, it was proposed.
But it
And
has,
then massive opposition, including our county executive, now county executive, and it has not passed in
Okay.
Maryland yet.
right, okay.
But half the states in the United States have passed state streamlining laws.
Okay,
I have just two questions if I can.
Mhm.
All right, well, thank you for coming and talking with us a little bit. When you say that when they had meetings, they were packed with people, were they packed because they had health and safety concerns, or because of aesthetics for how they looked, or the placement of the poles? Like, what was
Everything.
the driving factor?
Everyone came. I think with this issue, there's a lot to bite on. There were people talking about how it looked, people talking about, I don't know for sure if it's harmful, but I don't want it near my kids. People saying, look, this is going to affect my property value. And then we have another issue, which I think is an important one. I don't know if it'd be more of a council issue, but we have a number of permitted antennas that are not following the permit. They're in the wrong place. They have different aspects of it haven't been followed, and there's nothing in place to ensure compliance. We don't have an adequate enforcement situation here. So we have people with antennas and structures by their homes that aren't even supposed to be there. So that was another issue, was the lack of enough infrastructure in the local government to even deal with the situation that we have.
And
You can watch them all the videos online. It's like a 2-hour conversation.
And when you were referring to publications and stuff, are those publications in like mainstream medical journals, or is there anything that's peer reviewed that I can read?
We always put forward peer-reviewed, published articles. We would contend that it's industry and industry-funded scientists that always say it's not peer-reviewed or it's not this or that, and that's just not true. There's plenty of peer-reviewed articles in respected journals. In fact,
can you give me one and look it up? Like any
Sure.
journal?
I will send you many. Environmental research.
Well, something that's in like a mainstream journal that I'm gonna Journal of American Medicine, something that I'm gonna know.
Well, okay. Let me go.
So now
Yeah, I can send you many. I can say this: the National Toxicology Program study that found radio frequency radiation has clear evidence of cancer in rats. If you go to the National Toxicology page, you can learn about that. That study was designed to look at are our FCC limits appropriate, because they're only based on stopping heating and burns. And Dr. Ronald Melnick, 28-year NIH scientist who designed that study, he's retired. He's now one of our advisors, and we have a lot of his publications, like in Health Physics, which address all of the criticisms which are unfounded, and I will send you that. In addition, a lot of Dr. Linda Birnbaum, former NIEHS director, she is now retired as well, I will say. So she did a statement, which is an amicus brief, which I will send you for our case, about the importance of that study. And in addition, former U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service scientists have also published and are speaking out and filing statements related to this issue. So I'll send you a whole list of peer-reviewed, published science.
Yeah, if you can send the citations to our planner, Ellen Shadle, and then she can distribute it to the commission.
Great, I will do so.
Do you have any other questions, Mike?
No, I mean, about how many people were at these meetings, in percentage-wise of the population?
I can't say that I counted. It was a packed elementary school. I don't know if it was the lunchroom. It was big. We have big schools. And you can see it from the visual as well. I would say whenever we've had meetings, city council meetings, or there's time where they'll have a public testimony, it's packed. Packed. And unlike anything really we've ever seen in the county, I mean, and that's because people are, they don't want the antennas near their homes. So I didn't count exactly, but you can see from a visual what it would be. I would say around 200. But, and there are also people watching the live stream. It was all online and so forth.
Okay.
So
Anybody else have a question? If not, thank you, and we'll look forward to getting the citations.
thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there any other business to come before the commission this afternoon?
One comment I think I'd like to make,
Sure.
what we just listened to. When we started this conversation about this 5G network and so on, there was the comment by the gentleman, I think it was out of Mayville or something like that, that had written and talked about some of these kinds of comments, and we kind of, I don't want to say pushed it aside, but took it as just complaining without substance in a sense. And all of a sudden to have this woman come on and be talking in a way where there seems to be more substance to the thinking of a lot of people is, kind of scary. And it kind of raises some thinking about it.
I agree with you.
Whether it's reality or not, I have no idea.
Yeah, I
But
agree.
based on a lot of things that had happened, it was science and technologies and everything over the years, something like this creeping through now and then is maybe not totally unrealistic.
Well, that's why we want to see the citations and check out some of the research on our own.
I thought that was a dead issue though until a few moments ago.
Well, I won't express my opinion on this. I would just say, let's get the citations. And I know there's probably a lot of it, and we can't all get through it, but to the extent that you can,
It's
check it out.
Yeah, government has shown us in a lot of ways recently that not doing your homework on things can be a disadvantage.
No, and I think we have been doing our homework, and maybe we got a little bit more to do, but, I've talked to different people who I respect their opinions on this, who have some background in these things. So and I continue to do that. And all the comments that were made are in the public record now, so it's certainly part of our record.
Oh, yeah.
Comments of the questions, so it's there, and I assume the PJ will again talk about this, so I guess I would wait for the citations, and then to the extent that you have time to do it, start checking some of it out.
I tend to agree with that. I'm not trying to push.
No, I know, and my advice is I wouldn't be scared. I think we
Came up
should
against
just
something.
our due diligence like I think we always did.
Yeah.
We could probably there's probably a study out there that speaks to the safety of it as well, and we can compare that to what some of the, the current industry standards are.
Sure.
It's part of doing your homework.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I agree. I think we do need to do our due diligence in looking into the safety of this. We've been looking at a lot of details on things, but safety is something that as a council member here, I'm concerned about, so I would like to see some more information. We got a lot of information in a short period of time. And as you said, Rick, some of the citations it's worth looking at.
Yeah, and any recommendation on an ordinance would eventually end up in front of the Public Safety Committee at the council, so,
Right.
after the game, so that they certainly would, take a good look at it, along with all the council members.
Right.
Anything else to come before the commission this afternoon? Can I get a motion to adjourn?
moved.
Moved by Mr. Lehman, can I get a second?
Second,
Moved by Mr. Nelson, all in favor?
aye.
Our meeting is adjourned, thank you very much.